If you've ever visited Old San Juan, you've probably walked all over them. You probably asked the locals how they got here, and you were probably told a lie. That's right, a lie. So today, we're going to set the record straight and dismiss several myths about the adoquines in Old San Juan. Hi, I'm Orlando Mergal for Puerto Rico by GPS, and today you're going to learn all about the adoquines in Old San Juan. You'll learn how they got here and how they didn't, when they got here, where they came from, how many were installed, how long it took to pave the entire city, and even what the adoquines are actually made of.
The word adoquine comes from Hispanic Arabic, and it's the name given to a stone or block of wood carved into a rectangular shape that is used in the construction of pavements. Well, adoquines in Old San Juan are certainly not made of wood, and they're not made of stone either. So the correct English translation can't be cobblestones. They're actually cobbles or pavers. So why aren't they cobblestones, you might ask? Well, because they're not made of stone. More of that in a minute. Most of Old San Juan was originally paved in siliceous stones brought from the Pyrenees Mountains back in the 18th century. But they broke easily, and there were many alleys that remained unpaved altogether. The first attempt to repave Old San Juan took place in 1880, using wooden pavers. Now, what could have gone wrong there? Being that Puerto Rico is a tropical island with an average yearly humidity of over 70%, you do the math. The first two streets rebuilt with wooden pavers were Calle de la Tanca, going from Plaza de San Francisco to Puerta de España, and Calle Tetuán, going from El Cristo Chapel to behind Teatro Tapia. These streets were chosen because they had the greatest traffic and showed the greatest decay. Puerta de España no longer exists. It was one of the two gates that were demolished back in 1897. The other was Puerta de Santiago, better known as La Puerta de Tierra. The southeastern quadrant of the city wall was also demolished along with a substantial portion of Fort San Cristobal. In spite of this demolition, the remaining part of Fort San Cristobal is still the largest military structure built by the Spaniards in the New World. Now, back to los adoquines. In 1889, the city government received a proposal from a company in Sunderland, England, called Huntley Brothers, offering slag pavers for a way better price than their wooden equivalents. Slag is a stony waste matter separated from metals during the smelting or refining of ore. Basically, it's waste, but it's good waste because, after all, it's metal, so it's very sturdy. That meant that it made for very strong pavers at a very low price. The first order of 50,000 pavers arrived in San Juan on November 11, 1890, and was used to repave Calle Tanca and Calle Tetuán. I guess the wooden variety didn't fare so well after all. During the next 6 years, an additional 2,600 tons of slag pavers were ordered to repave the entire city, including the alleys. By 1897, the entire project had been completed. Urban legend has repeated for years that los adoquines were actually used as ballast in Spanish ships that returned to Spain loaded with riches from Puerto Rico and the New World. If you were told this story, it's a lie. And here's another little piece of trivia for you. Since los adoquines are actually made of metal, they're magnetic. Just bring along a magnet and see for yourself. The cheap stuff that's being used today to repave certain areas of Old San Juan is no match for the slag pavers of the late 1800s. So why is all this so important? Because blue slag pavers lend a unique personality to Old San Juan, and they're being destroyed. They're being broken by vehicular traffic and replaced with cheap imitations that crumble in a few years. Back in 1890, all we had were horses and buggies. The first automobile arrived in Puerto Rico in 1901. The average horse and buggy can weigh close to 2,000 pounds, while the average automobile weighs 4,100. And a mid-sized box truck weighs close to 10,000 pounds. This means that every time that a car passes over the slag pavers in Old San Juan, it applies at least twice the weight of a horse-drawn buggy and 5 times the weight in the case of a commercial box truck. Let alone the constant traffic, the restricted walking surfaces, the diminished air quality, and the black particulate that sticks to every building. Simply put, Old San Juan and its world-famous adoquines were not intended for modern automobiles. We're destroying the second oldest city in the Western Hemisphere, and very few people seem to care. It should have been a pedestrian city decades ago.
So now you know a lot more about the surface below your feet in Old San Juan. They're called adoquines, or pavers. They're not cobblestones, they weren't used as ballast, they've only been around for a little over a century, and they're being destroyed every time a modern vehicle runs over them. Share this video with your friends. Everybody should know what's going on. For Puerto Rico by GPS, this is Orlando Mergal. See you next time.